Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss our favorite Christmas memories, specifically the nerdy ones, of course. So I'm going to kick things off with the video games because, I mostly like to go with video games, but there's going to be a couple of Christmases, really like one that I can honestly remember. Like I barely remember my Christmases if I'm being totally honest, but there are a couple in there that I remember. But if we're going gaming memories, I'm going to start with the best-selling console of all time, the PlayStation 2. Of course, growing up, had the PlayStation 1. It was a game changer. Got introduced to Resident Evil, introduced to Metal Gear, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, a lot of the classics from back in the day. And then, of course, it was like, hey, there's a new PlayStation coming out, the PlayStation 2, appropriately named as it was the second one. And so I'm like, all right, PlayStation 2 is coming out. Of course, you want to get that. They got Tekken Tag Tournament was like one of the launch titles. I still have my menu. For whatever reason, I took the menu out of the case, which is great because I mentioned this a million times, but most of my PS2 games were sadly stolen, so I don't really have any of my PS2 games, most of my PS2 games anymore. I still have the PlayStation because my parents are split up. So, one of the silver lining benefits, I guess, of your parents possibly splitting up is that if you get robbed, you may or may not have your console at the other parent's house. So I still have my PS2 and I still have the couple of games that I have left. But getting the PS2 on Christmas, which I would assume was, God, when did that come out? Was it in 2002, 2001, 2000? I don't remember. But either way, it came out and it killed the Dreamcast. But I got the PlayStation 2 for Christmas. And I'll never forget getting up, and my older cousin, he lived with us at the time. And he was like, hey, come in for a minute. I was like, okay. So I follow him to his room, and he just popped the closet open, and you look down, and there's just this blue box sitting there, and I'm like, it's the PlayStation 2. And of course it was. It was the PlayStation 2 for Christmas, and it was an amazing Christmas. All I remember is Tekken Tag Tournament. I don't know if I even got anything else for the PS2, if I'm being totally honest. I don't remember anything else for the PS2 for like the first year. I don't remember anything. It was Tekken Tag Tournament, and then after that, my brain goes straight to Metal Gear Solid 2. And that's a real shame because I'm sure there are a lot of great games in the middle of those two games. But that's all I remember because they're both the Christmas memories. So it's so hard to remember when I got other games. But I remember getting Metal Gear Solid for Christmas. And of course that was a different year. Obviously it wasn't a launch title. But I got the PS2 for Christmas and it was an amazing time. And that's something that, especially growing up, that kind of went away because once you start to get your own money, you don't really get consoles for Christmas anymore. Like you might get games. I mean, I still remember getting, I think it was in 2019, was when Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order first came out. And it was like, of course I really wanted it's a Star Wars game, I wanted that. And I was talking to my uncle about it, and I just happened to mention it to him. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just like, yeah, there's this new Star Wars game is coming out. I haven't gotten it yet, but I really want to get it. And so we had like a family gathering, we went out to eat and stuff. And as we were leaving, it's like, hey, hold on a sec. And then he just, boom, Star Wars. And I had no idea. I wasn't even thinking of it. I didn't even think to actually ask him. I was just talking about it. But I remember getting that. Basically, that was a Christmas gift. And I got Star Wars Fallen Order. And man, that's one of the best gaming experiences I ever had because I love that game. Like that was one of those things, people always love to talk about nostalgia. That's one of those games where I was like, this makes me feel like I did when I was a kid watching Star Wars for like the 800th time. So that was a great early Christmas gift, and I played the crap out of that. That was the last year before I had kids. I enjoyed that game. I will never forget that. But going further back in time, like I said, Metal Gear Solid. I wanted that game so bad. I remember seeing the trailer with my cousins and being super hyped for it. Like, oh man, there's a new Metal Gear coming out. Love Metal Gear. And so we were just waiting. And Metal Gear came out before Christmas came out. And I remember being at Sam's Club with the family. We were doing some shopping and stuff. And I remember telling my grandmother, like, man, I really want that Metal Gear Solid 2. Like, I really want that. And of course, grandparents, they do what they do. And it was like, well, I guess you have to see if Santa gets it for you. And I remember thinking, I don't know how old I was because Metal Gear Solid 2 came out in like 2002, 2003. So I'm not even a teenager yet. Not even a teenager. Unless it was 2003, in which case I just turned 13. Actually, that's not even true. What am I thinking? I would have been like, in 2003, I would have been 11. I'm stupid. Anyway, she said that, and all I remember thinking is, man, this fake crap. Like, I just remember thinking, I don't care about this fake stuff. Like, I know Santa isn't real. That's all I could think was like, man, I do not want to hear this fake crap about, like, oh, we'll see if Santa gets it for you. And you just had to wait. That's what it was like. It was like the game's right there, the beautiful artwork, also sadly one of my stolen games, but that beautiful artwork from Metal Gear Solid 2 is like seared into my brain. And it's like, it was just there. It was like a lot of games didn't do like the white background. That was like a rare thing. Like most games, it's a black background with the character on it. Like nobody was doing like the white background for their game. Like it was just Metal Gear. That was like the only thing. Metal Gear 1 just had like the text on it and it really stands out. And then Metal Gear Solid 2 had like the art piece, but the background was white. Pretty much every game on Earth, the background is just like a dark background. It's so, even to this day, most key art, when you look at video games, it's dark. It's something on a black background. It's very rare to see something on a white background. So it was super cool, and it always stood out. And like, once again, of course, the hand-drawn art is always a nice little set piece. And I just remember seeing it, and it was just a full shelf, just stock full of Metal Gear Solid 2. And it's just like, oh, you have to wait and see if Santa gets it for you. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just want this game really bad. But Christmas, of course, did come, and it was absolutely amazing. And that was definitely one of those Christmases where you just do nothing. You're just like, okay, this is what I have, and this is what I shall experience for the day. I got up, I'm sure there were other things. I got more than just Metal Gear Solid 2. But I got Metal Gear Solid 2. Everything else paled in comparison. And I was up, and I was playing Metal Gear in the living room, and that's it. And they just let me play. I was an only child, so it was a little bit easier for me. But I got up, I got my stuff, I got my MGS2, and I was like, here we go. Put that bad boy in the PlayStation, aiming in first person, trying to do those pull-ups. I never figured out how to do those pull-ups, by the way. Like, my entire life, I never figured out how to get past level 1. It was like, you're supposed to just constantly do the pull-ups in like within a set time. I could never figure it out. I'm like, I just don't understand. I'd never figured that part out. But I know I had a great time with that game. And I played, and I played, and I played. And then I played again. I played the crap out of Metal Gear Solid 2. But that was a fantastic Christmas because I got one of my favorite games ever. Mostly because it was just Metal Gear, not because it was like, Metal Gear is actually like my favorite game ever. It was just the sequel to Metal Gear. And I don't remember my exact thoughts and feelings about the whole Raiden thing. I think I was fine, probably because I was a kid, so I wasn't as attached. It was just like, hey, it's Metal Gear. If this is how it goes, this is how it goes. And I still thought it was great. Like, of course, the switcheroo, caught a lot of people off guard back in the day. But it was still really good. And it was like, okay, this dude who's named Pliskin is like, he's clearly Snake, right? It was one of those things where I was like, I'm pretty sure this is Solid Snake, but at the same time, even as a kid, I was like, I don't know if he's just being weird about it. So I genuinely couldn't tell. I was like, I genuinely have no idea if this is clearly just Snake or if they're actually effing with me. Like, even back then, I was like, I don't know what Kojima's really doing. Like, I didn't know him like that, but I still didn't really know if he was just effing with me or if it was like, obviously this is Snake. He's just using a fake name. I really couldn't tell because I'm like, it's Metal Gear. It's a little hard to tell if you're being effed with or not, sometimes. Like, it's Metal Gear, that's just how it is. But that was a phenomenal Christmas, getting in that game. And, that's one of the things with the PS2. Like I said, those are always the first two memories that I really go to when it comes to my gaming memories, is getting the PS2 and then getting MGS2 specifically. Other than that, I don't really have like a ton of Christmas memories when it comes to the PS2. I can't really think of like, oh, I got this game for Christmas, or this happened during, like I said, during the holidays. I remember getting certain games at certain times. Like, I remember getting Resident Evil Code Veronica late because I really wanted that, because the original version of it came with the demo to Devil May Cry, because obviously it was before Devil May Cry officially came out, and I wanted that so bad because I'm like, I get two things in one. I get the new Resident Evil game, and I would get a demo to another game. And of course, back in the day, that's where it was at. You get a demo of something. So I remember getting Code Veronica late because I got the Greatest Hits version, sadly stolen. But I always remember, I was thinking about this recently, that it actually fits. It's one of the few games where the Greatest Hits logo actually really fits Code Veronica, because I consider it to be Claire's game. Like, technically it is kind of half and half, but I consider that to be one of Claire's games. So it having like the red at the top was actually very appropriate for that game in particular, because it's kind of Claire's game. So it was always one of the few where I was like, the Greatest Hits logo really blends well with Code Veronica because of the main character of that game. So I always thought that was cool. It was one of those random things I thought of last week. So there you go. But I do have the one big PlayStation memory, like PS1 PlayStation memory. And that is specifically getting a giant stack of video games. And I can only tell you maybe 3 of the games, but I got a stack. It was a huge stack, which is funny because of that, if I had that same stack in PlayStation 2 form, it would have been way bigger because the cases were so much thicker. But you get a stack of PS1 games, and it was super easy to just hold all of them at the same time. Nice little squares, everything was nice and neat, super simple. But I remember getting a stack of games. I believe one of them was Crash Bandicoot Warped, and that's going off of memory based on when I'm pretty sure that game came out. So I'm pretty sure Crash Bandicoot Warped was one of those Christmas games. But the other 2, those are the special ones, because I got Dino Crisis with the demo for Resident Evil 3, and then I got Resident Evil 3. And for those of you who are unaware, even though I reference Resident Evil, at least I attempt to every single episode, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is my favorite Resident Evil game. I think the Resident Evil 1 remake on GameCube is the best Resident Evil game because it's like the perfect remake of the first game. But if I'm going favorite, I'm still picking RE3. Like, that is my favorite one. It tends to be crapped on as like the least, it's crapped on the most and considered the least favorite out of the original trilogy, which I find absolutely insane. But once again, that's just me. I love Resident Evil 3. I love the crap out of that game. I got that for Christmas, and that was a good time. That was a real good time. So Dino Crisis and Resident Evil 3, and I love Dino Crisis, of course, much scarier because, zombies don't run in Resident Evil, but those effing dinosaurs, they were running. And I swear, as a kid, I always freaked out playing Dino Crisis because I swear that game didn't give you any ammo. It wasn't like survival horror. It was like, here's one tranquilizer dart, and here's like 18 dinosaurs, and you get to pick one to make fall asleep for about 5 minutes. That's how it felt playing Dino Crisis as a kid. I was like, I can't kill anything. Everything's an effing tranquilizer dart. I used to get a little mad about that game sometimes because I'm like, can I get an actual weapon, please? Everything was always effing tranq darts. Like, getting poison darts was like a blessing. Like, it was an absolute miracle because I'm like, I swear this game gives you nothing but tranquilizer darts. That's how it felt when I was playing it as a kid. Like, if I played it now, I'm sure it'd feel different. I'd be a lot better at it too. But Dino Crisis was like super wild to me. I'm like, I can't go anywhere. Like, it's not like Resident Evil where it's like, oh, there's zombies here. It's like, no, it's dinosaurs. They run at you. So it's a little bit different. Still waiting on that remake, of course, Capcom. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. It's Capcom's year coming up. We got the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil. We got Onimusha coming back. Pragmata is really cool. If you haven't played that demo, I highly recommend checking that out. Like, they got 3 games coming out, and I need more money because I really want all of them. But next year's the year of Capcom. Hopefully everything pans out and it ends up being fantastic across the board. That's what I'm looking forward to. And then maybe they'll finally be like, good God, here, effing Dino Crisis remake. Like, I don't know. We say it all the time. They don't seem to want to make money 100%. But we'll see what ends up happening. But that is a really good Christmas memory that I have, just getting that stack of PlayStation games. And then the last really big Christmas memory that I truly have when it comes to my gaming stuff is getting the original Xbox, which I did not want. I wanted a GameCube. I didn't ask for it, so it was one of those weird situations. I wasn't even expecting a game console. I was just like, probably get some toys here and there, whatever. And then I remember, Christmas was always at the grandparents' house. Go to my grandparents' house. This is on my father's side. So my aunt was still young enough to be living with my grandparents. So I was like, all right, it's Christmas and stuff. There were a couple of Christmases. I did get a TV one Christmas. That was pretty sick. It was the TV with the VCR. Let me tell you, there's a lot of Star Wars on that television. I got the TV with the VCR combo. I watched movies like a maniac. I was watching special edition Star Wars left and right. And I'll never forget, when we got the TV, they told me it was from my aunt. And it was like, oh, okay, don't tell her and stuff. And I was like, okay, because it was a TV. They couldn't really hide it. And it was like, yeah, it's for your aunt. Make sure you don't tell her. I was like, okay. And then, of course, Christmas Day, I was like, it's your TV. And I was like, yeah. So then I got to watch Blank Man in my bed. If you have not seen Blank Man, that's crazy. But anyway, back to the gaming thing. Went to the grandparents' house. They got me and my aunt the original Xbox. And not just the original Xbox. We got the original Xbox. We got the Xbox bag carrying case. We got the Xbox DVD, like it had the DVD remote and then the DVD sensor. Like, we got the whole weird media setup for the Xbox, and it was like, huh, like I really thought the GameCube was way better than this, and there wasn't anything on it, except for one magical thing, and it was this double-sided disc. Well, it wasn't a double-sided disc, I think it was just 2 discs. One side, absolute garbage. No offense to all the racing game fans out there, but Sega GT 2003. I don't like racing games. I like arcadey racing games. I'll play some Need for Speed. I'll play the crap out of some Burnout and stuff. You know, like I'll play my arcadey racers. But actual legit racing, just kill me instead. So garbage, right? Sega GT 2003 or 2002, whichever year it was, trash. And then there was magic that I hadn't seen for quite a while. I'd forgotten even, because I had experienced it on the Dreamcast. And that was Jet Set Radio Future. And that game may have changed my life. That music is so effing good. That game is so effing fun. And that's all I had, because the other thing was a racing game. I literally had nothing for quite some time. But Jet Set Radio Future was phenomenal. Like, I didn't know until I knew. And then I got it and I had fun with it, and I effing love that game. Of course, because it's amazing. Like, it's fun to play, it's fun to listen to. There's like 100 billion characters. I'm sure I never unlocked every character in that game. Like, there's so much stuff to do and so many ways you can do it. It's kind of confusing a little bit, especially as a kid. You know, back in the day, it was just like, see what happens. And then you just start going places and it's like, oh, there's somebody here. Like, just characters, so many characters. But I remember getting that and being like, wow, I did not see any of this coming. But got my OG Xbox. I do still have my Xbox. I do still have I swear I probably got like 10 games on the Xbox through its entire existence. I played a bunch of games. You know, my cousins had Xboxes and stuff too, so I've played multiple games. Always wanted Fusion Frenzy. Never got that game, but I wanted that so bad as a kid. The game where they're like, the cover game where you're like in the ball and like you roll into each other. I always thought that was amazing. But I also wanted the Buffy the Vampire Slayer game. I had like a little, one of those demo disc things where it was like, hey, you can just watch like some random videos or whatever. And I always remember one of them being the Buffy the Vampire Slayer video game and being like, that actually looks kind of cool. Classic 2000s, just basic action game where you do some silly stuff. But got my Xbox for Christmas, still enjoyed it. Had, like I said, had my couple of games, Jet Set Radio Future. That's where, on Xbox is where I played NBA Street. So that's tied to Xbox versus PlayStation for me personally. So NBA Street Volume 2, that's an Xbox game in my life. The Prince of Persia trilogy, that was all Xbox for me as well. So I tie that more to Xbox than I do PlayStation. So I definitely had, once I got the console that I wasn't really asking for, it got some games, even if they weren't exclusive. I didn't really care. As long as I got like a good game, who gives a crap? But Prince of Persia is where it's at. The Prince of Persia trilogy, I love those games. I'm also, once again, one of the fans of The Warrior Within. A lot of people hate that because it was darker and all that stuff. And I guess I'm a sucker for that. I'm the Vegeta side, Sasuke side of things. Hey, bust out the symbiote Spider-Man, and I'm a little happier. But I like Warrior Within. I thought it was super cool. Plus, I'm not gonna lie, the Empress of Time or whatever back in the day, my God, that was one of those kid memories where it was like, whew, she's hot. Like, I remember that as a kid being like, whoa, this lady is effing attractive. This is nuts. But also fun gameplay. Really love that game. But good times. I think that's perfect timing, honestly, because I'm at work now. Would love to know your Christmas memories. What are like the nerdiest moments where you're just like, that thing for Christmas was the thing? Obviously, we have all our moments where, obviously, I haven't played MGS2 in 100 million years. I haven't played Tekken Tag Tournament in forever. That's just how it is. I don't even have most of my PlayStation 2 games were stolen. I actually might still have most of my PlayStation games. I ended up, I might not have the cases for most of them, but I have one of those like cheap, kind of CD deals where you just slot them in there. I do have a lot of my original PlayStation games. I just don't have like any of the cases except for Resident Evil and Metal Gear because I took care of those. But other than that, everything's like been shoved into to the little slipcover. But definitely some fun times, some good nerdy gaming memories. Like I said, would love to know yours. It's Christmas. You guys expecting anything for the holidays tomorrow? Of course, by the time you guys see this, it will be Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that jazz. If you guys have any comments, of course, please put them down in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.